Bippity boppity boop. Nice and quick, please, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll speak to that by introducing Claire Moffat, Program Leader, who will give an introduction to the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Through the Chair. So Logan City Council has provided immunisation services to our community since 1979. In March 2018, we actually, Council actually endorsed the previous strategy, and since that time, we've actually seen a 20% increase in our vaccination rates within the city in terms of those that come to our services. So the strategy has reached its end of life, so it was 2018 to 2021. So we've developed a new strategy. The new strategy outlines 8 key priority areas, performance targets and indicators. And so what we're looking for now is seeking Council's endorsement for the new strategy to go out for community consultation. Happy to take any questions.
Great work, Claire. Appreciate the effort. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. I love this program. I've got 2 clinics in my area and I love it. Now, I do see lots of social media for the Flagstone Community Centre, but I actually don't see a lot for the Greenbank State School one, and I've had kids and I actually didn't know that it was at Greenbank. I just want to know, how can we help get more numbers through? Do you need a social media campaign? Do you need more of it? Do you need more numbers to come through with the monthly attendance and that sort of thing?
Through the Chair, we have been talking to marketing about how we can get an annual social marketing campaign. What we've done in the past is actually just ad hoc, done some adverts through social media in particular areas, but we are looking at particularly those growth areas, including Yarrabilba, to try and get the numbers up in those clinics. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Kransky.
I concur. I was going to say that this has been a real boon since the clinic opened in the Yarrabilba community, and we love it, and the feedback is great, and I'm very happy to move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. There being no other questions, Councillor Kransky has moved the report. Would someone like to second that? Thank you, Councillor Lane. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Claire. Great work. Oh, sorry. Do I really have to say he's absent? There's a video camera that says he's not here. The draft, item 5.2 is the draft waste management and resource recovery.
Sorry, Chair. There is one present. No.
Thank you. Is it in the meeting code? Ooh. The draft management and resource recovery strategy of 2022 to 2032 is item 5.2. Before we open the item for discussion, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare? There being none, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Chair. So this report presents the draft waste management and resource recovery strategy. This particular strategy is a legislative obligation on local governments under the Waste and Recycling Act, Waste Reduction and Recycling Act. What it does, it provides the high-level direction for waste management and resource recovery for the city, for council over the next 10 years. And the next 10 years will be very important because unlike previous decades, the next 10 years will see the state government's waste levy starting to impact on the council by way of the $10 per year annual increase per tonne to the waste levy amount, but equally the transition down of the current rebate that councils receive for the domestic waste component, which basically means from 2023, from July 2023, the waste levy will start to financially hit council. So for every tonne it puts in landfill, council will pay levy. The other aspect is that under business as usual volumes, the next 10 years will pretty much likely see the Browns Plains landfill reach its capacity in terms of available airspace. So that's why one of the primary aims of this strategy is to reduce waste to landfill through numerous initiatives, but a couple of the more high priority ones being to investigate the implementation of a dedicated food organics and garden organics waste system for the city, bearing in mind that nearly 50% of a landfill bin is made up of food and garden waste. So if we can divert that away, we've made a big chunk in the diversion from landfill, and also starting to put together some thinking around what our future network of community waste facilities look like across the city, so that they're convenient to the community, but they're also designed in a manner that allows for convenient separation of recyclable materials to get as much away from that end of line bin as we possibly can. We're also looking to improve resource recovery through reducing that contamination in recycling bins. Community engagement and education is going to be super critical over the next 10 years, because as much as council can offer services, the way in which the community use those services is going to be critically important. And then finally, the more we want to extract the maximum value out of our resources, the more we can keep those resources in the productive economy rather than in a landfill, the better. And if we can do that locally, better still. Like I said, the strategy contains many initiatives. I won't go through them all in detail, but suffice it to say it's a comprehensive suite with the aim of meeting the state government targets for waste reduction. So we've got listed KPIs and targets within that. The recommendations, the strategy be released for public consultation, and that the results of that consultation come back to committee with a final strategy, and also that a service enhancement be included as part of the 22-23 budget for additional resources to implement the wide range of initiatives outlined in the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I have questions from Councillor Lane and Kerensky.
Thanks very much through you, Mr. Chair. If I was a punter at home and I heard that it's going to cost $10 per tonne because of the state government's increase on the waste levy, I'd be sitting there saying, I don't think I produce a tonne of rubbish a year. Who am I covering for? Is that like, if I was a punter at home listening to that, that's what I would take away from that. What is that $10 really doing? Like, if I've got 3 bins at home, one for my recycle, one for my general waste, and one for my green waste, and I'm doing worm farming, doing all the works, where would this come into it? Where is that $10 figure?
Okay, sorry, I probably didn't explain that too well. The $10 is the actual incremental increase per year, starting from a base of this year of $95 per tonne. So that's the starting rate. And then council's current rebate is going to basically transition down from a 100% rebate down to 95, down to 85. So over the course of the next 10 years, for every tonne of waste that we put into landfill, we're going to pay an element of levy. And I'll be bringing back those figures to this council just to get an understanding of what that looks like in its totality, and then what that starts looking like in terms of increases to the waste utility charge and the increase to fees and charges at the gate to offset that cost.
Thanks very much. That's great.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Kerensky.
Thank you. That's not me.
We currently have issues with one of the switchboards in the administration centre. At this point in time, the external power grid in council's IT network is stable. In order to determine the fault with the switchboard, some testing will be undertaken at 1 p.m. today. During this testing, some disruption will be experienced to the power in the west, north and south wings of the City Administration Centre. The east wing should not be impacted. It is anticipated that the disruption to the power supply will be only for a short time, with the IT network cutting over to the UPS.
So, thank you, councillors. We've got about 10 minutes until they turn off the power to the west wing, which is where we are at the moment, so make it snappy.
I will be brief so that we can try and wrap it up. Michael, I just note in here reference to the pilot project we were discussing with Land Lease, and I accept that that is the current state of play there. But I also recognise that they have quite an interest in the circular economy. So whilst that's not progressing just now, I'd hope that we'd keep those lines of communication open moving forward. More a statement than a question, and I'm happy to move the report when it's time.
Thank you, councillors. Any further questions? There being none, Councillor Kerensky has moved. Would someone like to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Stemp. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously, noting that the meeting code doesn't stipulate stating who's not in the room. Michael, very briefly, I don't believe you have specific general business, but I'm receiving, as I'm sure many other councillors are at the moment, questions about the scheduled curbside cleanup and how that's going, as well as the flood waste cleanup. Can you provide an update to the room in under 8 minutes about what it looks like out there and how much waste is being cleaned up in the wake of the worst floods we've had since 1974?
Yes, Councillor Roden, thank you for that that prompt. So, just to cast our minds back, I think it was the week after the flood event on the weekend. We identified across 59 suburbs of the city close to 1,000 streets that we identified as potentially requiring at least surveillance by our curbside collection crew to determine whether there'd been any flood waste put out, noting that the hundreds of properties across the city that were flood affected. So in terms of scale of the cleanup that we're, the areas across the city that we're looking to get to, that provides a bit of context there. In the last week and a half, we've had machinery crews deployed across 15 suburbs, and they've been progressively removing waste that is of a size or of a condition that it requires machinery cleanup to do. We anticipate getting through most of all of those machinery jobs by the end of this week. Our manual cleanup collection crews, they are up against it on a couple of fronts. So obviously we've got all the flood waste areas to be attended to, and as we're doing sweeps through those, more waste is often being presented after those sweeps have been done, and we are noticing more and more waste being presented across the city, which is clearly not flood affected waste. It's simply just people thinking that there's a citywide cleanup happening. So that is slowing us down a little bit as well. And we're also mindful that when the flood event hit, there were a number of suburbs which had their scheduled curbside cleanup in progress at the same time as well. So we're deploying our limited trucks. We've got 4 operating at the moment. We're deploying those across the areas as best we can to catch up on the suburbs that still need their regular curbside completed, as well as those suburbs that and those streets that need the flood waste moved as well. So that's what we're confronting. We are getting across the city as quickly as we possibly can, but we've given ourselves a window of some weeks to get across the city to get on top of this. So I just ask for those in the community to understand that anything they put out at the moment, if they're not in one of those scheduled areas, very much needs to be flood-related waste, and we will get through that as quickly as we possibly can over the course of the next few weeks.
Thank you, Michael. And I understand even seeking support through subcontractors in the private sector is difficult because every council in South East Queensland is trying to do the same type of cleanup. So is there any further resources that you are able to tap, or are you completely exhausted all your options?
Yes, my colleagues in Plant Fleet Services are sick of me trying to say, surely you can find another trucker? Yeah, we are. I can say we have looked as much as we reasonably can. Every truck and crew in South East Queensland and Northern New South Wales are spoken for. As soon as anything becomes available, we're latching onto them as quickly as we can. And I should say we are very, very appreciative of the ADF assistance that we're getting at the moment, who are focusing on those flood-affected streets. That is their remit, so that's where they are focusing, and they are assisting. So between the ADF and ourselves, we're progressing as quickly as we reasonably can.
Thank you for that update. I have questions on that from Councillor Murphy and Lane. We've got 1 or 2 minutes, so make it snappy, councillors.
Yes, we close it, otherwise we're going to come back, though.
We did.
I just wanted to say a quick thank you, Michael. You are always available, even outside of hours. And I know you are going through your own COVID journey with your family. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. You have done an impeccable job on helping our area that was affected heavily with 54 properties, 5 community groups and businesses. You've always been available to answer our questions and to assist where possible, so thank you.
Thank you for making that quick, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Lane.
Big shout out to Roachdale South residents who allowed the clean-up to actually divert to those who need it during the flood recovery. I think that's amazing, so big shout out to Councillor Bradley's community. From my Division 2, perfect job. Thank you so much. You can't do everything overnight, but you have done a cracking job, and it's so greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Great work. Thank you, councillors, for your help in finishing this meeting before the power goes out. Meeting closed at 12:57. If you have general business for Michael, please take it offline.